So some of it was very self-explanatory. Some of it was just whatever. I really like listening to some of the old times, like and things like that, where these guys were talking about training back in the day, what it was like to train back in the day, and even hearing about, like I said, guys training on a boat in like the early 1900s.
That was so cool.
Yeah, because it's like, I think about this thing with like what we do is jiu-jitsu. I mean, jiu-jitsu, if you look at jiu-jitsu, it stems back like a long time. I think that the first writings that they have of jiu-jitsu is like somewhere around 700s.
Really?
In Japan, yeah, is where they start seeing like something that would resemble like jiu-jitsu or grappling or whatever. Something. I mean, grappling's been around forever, but actually the writing of like, say, calling it jiu-jitsu or whatever, in the traditional Japanese sense, where it would be the JU, right, instead of JIU.
Mm-hmm.
And it morphed. And I mean, by the time like when judo was created, there were lots of schools. So there was like, it wasn't like, okay, there's jiu-jitsu, then now there's judo. No. There was like a bazillion different schools of jiu-jitsu. So, and I don't know how to say their names, right? But like you would look at it, and when judo was being developed, and even judo for a long time was not actually called judo. It was just called jiu-jitsu. Like there was a while before it sort of had to take, before they were able to change the name. But even though they were doing judo, right? Like they were still doing what Kano had created as judo, but they couldn't call it that for whatever reason. I remember forgot the reasons, but there was hundreds of schools of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So it wasn't one. So I mean, like maybe we're going back to that. Maybe we're going to be like, everybody's got a different style of jiu-jitsu, and that's what they call, like, this is the instead of it being like because a lot of times the names in Japanese look very exotic to us. But a lot of times it's very simple what they mean. Like even like when you think of like, like Osotogari or Uchimata or whatever, these are just mean like inside foot reap or outside foot trip, that kind of stuff. Very simple terms. But we might look at them later on, and then like we see these exotic names, goes into whatever. I can't even say the names. Jiu-Jitsu. It might just be that guy's name. I don't know. I don't know how they named him, right, or whatever. So maybe that's what we call it, right? Everybody starts popping up with their own name of jiu-jitsu. So it was Brazilian jiu-jitsu for a while. Okay, well, hell, they made it up. We'll make up our own. This is going to be American jiu-jitsu. Well, I'm going to do, I don't know, Kentucky jiu-jitsu, Chewjitsu, Chewy jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, you make it up. I don't know.
Yeah.
So again, I don't know. I don't know where that goes, but that was something that was going on when judo was created. And then what we do in jiu-jitsu is basically, and they even said that like back in the day that a lot of times they wouldn't even refer to it as judo. Like in the early 1900s, like when they're in Brazil, they were like, oh, they just called it jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. And so you see that there was this, that as judo was sort of pushing itself to be the main one, right? It was having a struggle with the jiu-jitsu too, where it's like, okay, well, this stuff's been around before. It wasn't new. It was just that the way that you guys are doing it is slightly different. So, I mean, thinking about it like that, like, with jiu-jitsu, where it had all these different types of techniques, everything from, like strikes and everything else. And then judo says, all right, well, we're going to focus on this section of this stuff, the grappling and the throws and everything else. And we want it to be this sort of combination of martial education for kids, and we want it to be all this stuff, and then we want it to be something that helps them become better people. That's kind of the idea, right? With the judo. And so they remove certain techniques, and you have the thing where we tap and we can train really hard because we've taken out the strikes and everything else. I mean, so again, he took stuff that was already there and just got rid of some of it, and like, all right, here we are.
Yeah,
we got rid of some of the features.